Hey there, it's Pete Thorn. Welcome to my home. This is the third video in my weekly Wednesday Q&A series where I answer the questions that you ask me via sending me an email to my Facebook music page, and I'll pick 5 questions each week and answer them in one of these videos. So why my home? Well, my studio is all torn up right now. I'm actually moving it to a different location and making good progress, actually. It's almost back up and running, but not quite. So I decided I would just knock out one of these Q&A videos real quick here at home. Why not? It's not so bad, right? It's kind of nice. I'm actually really digging playing guitar in this particular spot that you're seeing me in right now. It's been a minute since I've had some natural light and any windows or anything like that where I could sit and play. So I've got some devices here. I've got a new Line 6 Helix here I'm checking out, and also got a Kemper here and my UA interface, a couple of monitors, and it's really cool. I can just sit here and jam. And it's a lot of fun. So anyway, let's get to question number 1. Levin Jacobs wants to know basically what makes me buy a guitar? What makes me decide to make the decision to plunk down some cash and purchase a guitar? Specifically, he mentions my blonde 60s Tele that I got recently, and why did I decide this is the one, I need to get this? First off, I would say if I need a certain guitar for the job, then it's necessary to go out and find it, and that would prompt me to go out and purchase something for sure. Telecaster, I always kind of wanted a rosewood board Tele really bad, and once you start playing them and realize how versatile they actually are, and yet bonehead simple, they're kind of addictive. That particular guitar I found at Guitar Traders in Tokyo, and it's such a cool guitar, and I don't know, it just spoke to me. I plugged it in, it sounded amazing. It was like, wow, this is a tone I could really use. And it had just been refretted actually, so it played great. It's a vintage guitar, so it wasn't cheap, but it's it wasn't crazy expensive. It's a 66, and as you get sort of towards the later 60s and then into the 70s, they get sort of less and less expensive, but it's still right on the cusp of it's got real lacquer finish and stuff. I think they went to the urethane style finishes in about 68, so 66, 67, those are kind of really cool years for Telecasters, I think. You're still getting a lot of that sort of pre-CBS mojo and the lacquer and all that, and so that was basically it. I was comparing it against other Teles that were way more expensive, that were 60, 61, 62, 63 Teles, and it really held its own against that guitars, and yet was much more affordable. That's what prompted the decision for that guitar. But go to the Tokyo Guitar Traders store website. You can just Google search it and check it out and look at the guitars they have in this place. I used to go there and hang out and just on days off in Japan and just trip out on all the amazing guitars, because it's not a big store, but everything they have in there is super primo, really nice. I was also looking at a white Polaris white, I think it was a 63 SG, great big fat neck on it. SG Special, actually, like Pete Townsend used to play, Live at Leeds kind of thing. That guitar was just killing. So it was a decision between the SG and the Tele, and I decided to go with the Tele because it's a little more versatile and stuff, but that SG still haunts me. Okay, question number 2 comes from a fellow named Boris. He wants to know, what would I say to someone who thinks that maybe he's lost his passion for playing the guitar? Says it's maybe been going on for about a year or so like that. He still likes listening to a lot of different music, but whenever he picks up the guitar, he just doesn't have that drive to play anymore. It's hard to say. I mean, I think we all go through ruts and phases like that. I certainly put the guitar down every now and then for a while. I find it's kind of nice, go on vacation for a week or something, not take a guitar with me. And I always come back to it fresh and feel good about it. So maybe you just need a little break. But other than that, maybe it's a question of getting in a band. Sort of playing guitar in a very isolated way, all by yourself, can certainly have its rewards, but also it gets a little bit I don't want to say what's the point, but it's really fun to get in a room with other people and play some music, or at least go down to a weekly jam or something like that, and have that communication and conversation with other musicians. Musically speaking, I'm saying. Just do something different. Maybe take some lessons. Maybe try a style of guitar you've never tried before. I have this, thought in the back of my head that maybe I'll go take some classical lessons or something one of these days, because I've never done it. And it really is almost like studying a different instrument, I think, with a different right hand technique. And, there's similarities, but it's kind of just doing something out of the ordinary. Maybe you're stuck in the same old sort of patterns and licks and ruts, and you just need to mix it up a little bit. So I would say, maybe getting in a band, going to some jams, try playing a style of guitar that you're maybe musically interested in but have never delved into. Those could be some really good rut busters, I would think. Question number 3 comes from Luca in Italy. He wants to know how important I think sight reading is and whether I find it useful in my career as a session and touring guitarist. I'm a terrible sight reader, and I don't sight read that often. I can sort of pick through and read a little bit, but I always found it hard to read on guitar. I actually started on violin, and I could read pretty good on violin. And I played clarinet for a couple years in junior high, and I could read pretty good on clarinet. But guitar was always a struggle for me for some reason. Do I think it's important? Well, it depends on what you want to do with the guitar, and career-wise and whatnot. Playing in sort of a rock and blues context and in rock bands, it's not really that important, I don't think. But if you're doing film and TV sessions, it becomes very important. It just depends kind of on what end of this crazy music business you want to be a part of. I think that it never hurts, that's for sure. I was just kind of not drawn to it. It felt like doing math to me for some reason. I just wasn't into it, but that doesn't mean it's not a great thing to know how to do. I mean, understanding notation and theory and being able to put all that stuff together basically allows you to communicate with other musicians, I think, in a faster, much more comprehensive and sort of cohesive way. If you can refer to things, I think especially rhythms, like understanding, oh no, that's supposed to be a dotted eighth note there, or it's on the end of 3 or whatever. Like all that sort of rhythmic talk is really handy when you're in rehearsals and trying to refer to things. And if you don't have a good handle, like sort of on some theoretical knowledge, basic theory, and sight reading sort of ties into that. I think it does anyway. Maybe you can't communicate as well with other musicians. So, do I do it on a daily basis? No, but I think it's probably a good thing to learn. I should probably be studying it more, to tell you the truth. So that's my honest answer. Just one more thing on sight reading. I will say that charts are really important, like knowing how to read chord charts. And many times chord charts are, there's rhythms written as well. No actual sort of notation, but just chords and rhythms. That comes up a lot in rehearsals for different projects I've done, on tours and things like that, and also sessions. Charts, have a good handle on the ability to read chord charts well. Notation's a little bit of a different animal, I guess. Question number 4 is from Roy Atkinson. He would like to know what I think about the Fryette power station, and in particular, how does it work as an attenuator? I think he means wants to plug his amplifier into the power station, plug the power station into a speaker cabinet, and use it in that fashion, not for recording or anything, but actually just playing live through a cabinet, and wants to know if the attenuator kills tone. Well, so with the power station, it's not actually an attenuator, it's a load box, and then it has a built-in power amp to reamp the signal. So the load in the power station is going to load your guitar signal, the amplifier signal, all the way down to line level, and then it's got an effects loop in there if you want to patch in some effects into the loop, and then it passes the signal on to another power amplifier to reamplify. That's got its own volume control, so then you can set the overall volume of the unit and play at any volume you want, all the way down from whisper quiet to as loud as a 50-watt tube amp will go. That's what's in it, 50 watts of tube amplification. So the difference between that and a typical attenuator is that many attenuators just sort of suck juice off the amp and then sort of dissipate it as heat, and then only allow a certain amount of signal to go through to a cabinet. So there's a difference there, sort of a reamping style unit as opposed to an attenuator, pure attenuator, which is a little bit of a simpler device. So I have found personally that the reamp style units actually sound better to me. They sort of preserve the tone and the feel and everything, more so than typical attenuators. Attenuators, they can sound pretty good for knocking off a little bit of volume off the signal, and as long as you don't go too far with it. But the more and more that you engage an attenuator, the lower you go on the attenuation scale, sort of. I find the more that they affect the overall tone and feel of the amp, and I'm sure many of you out there have noticed that and found the same thing. Whereas the reamp style units, as long as they have a really, really good load and combined with a good power amp, they can sound sort of more natural. So that's my opinion. Fryette box works great. The Sur reactive load also works great if you pair it with a separate power amp. Also like the Torpedo Reload from 2 Notes. That's another good reamp style box. A little bit different design, but check out all those units and look at the feature set and see what's for you. Last question comes from a guy named Caesar, and he wants to know, he plays mostly at home, he says. He wants to know, should he get a small amp like the Bogner Atma, or maybe go with an Axe Effects instead? And I assume he's talking about maybe playing through a setup like I've got here on my desk with some studio monitors with the Axe Effects. I wrote a premier guitar column on this exact subject recently, like is modeling for you or not? Are you better off with an amp or better off with a modeler? It really depends on the type of guitar player you are. Obviously with the Axe Effects, Line 6 Helix, the Kemper, you know, there's a lot under the hood there and they do a lot of stuff, but there's a steeper learning curve. It's funny because I've got a Helix sitting right here and a Kemper, and then over there I've got my little Marshall 1-watt amp with a Sur cabinet, and it's about as simple as it gets. It's a volume and tone knob. Sometimes you just want to plug in and play and you don't want to mess around, and you know, other times maybe you want to delve a little deeper, so that's when the modeling stuff is great. But there are some guitar players that they just don't want to tweak. They just want to plug in and get a great tone, maybe use a pedal or two, and that's it. If you're that kind of player, the modeling thing can be a tough way to go. But if you're the type of player that really likes to get in deep and you know, tweak sounds and likes a lot of different effects and doesn't mind, like some people really enjoy that stuff. I do at times, and then other times I'm kind of live in both camps. Sometimes I just want to plug in and get a great sound. Other times I don't mind, you know, tweaking, delving really deep. The nice thing about the Axe Effects I find is that with many pieces of gear, sometimes you end up turning knobs for like, you know, an hour, 45 minutes, and you're trying to find a sound, and it seems like you maybe just lose interest after a while, and maybe you're not getting anywhere. If you're like, I don't know if it sounds any better than it did a half an hour ago. One thing I always found with the Axe Effects is that the more I got into it and the deeper I went, the better and better things sounded. So it is a device that's, you know, got a bit of a learning curve, and it does a lot, but that was a consistent thing that I found with that device. It was like, wow, you know, deeper I get and the more I kind of tweaked, and the more, you know, it was like getting better and better and better. The tone, I, you know, used it a lot over the years on tours and in the studio, and so it's a lot of fun. So yeah, you know, you ask yourself a real hard question, you know, what kind of guitar player are you, and are you the type of guy that enjoys that sort of thing, tweaking sounds and getting deep into the unit, or are you somebody that's just a plug and play kind of person? And if you can answer it kind of as a black or white thing, it'll be a really easy decision, I think, for you to make which way to go. Okay, so that's it for this week's Q&A. Please go to my Facebook music page, ask me some more questions, and I'll answer them as best I can each Wednesday. And next week I should be in my new studio all up and running. I'm excited to show you guys that. Please hit subscribe if you haven't, and come back and see me for some more videos real soon. I am Pete Thorn. Take care.